but I know this, that if it's good for her, then it's better for our marriage.
Welcome back, everyone. Hi, I'm Jennifer.
I'm Jason.
Husband Jason, married. How many years, baby?
37 years. Okay. How many years this year?
26.
20.
We're going to be at 27.
Be 27.
27 years. So, and this is part two, a two-part series. And gosh, I just went through and saw. So yesterday I recorded part one, and I was like, "Do you guys want me to have Jason on for part two?" And then I was like, "You know what? I'm just bringing Jason on for part two." And it was like a 50-minute episode. But you guys, it's so good. If you didn't listen to yesterday, then today's going to make no sense. So you need to go listen to yesterday. So yesterday we talked all about my nervous system and what I think.
Oh, we're talking about that.
Yes, what is super common between female entrepreneurs in particular, all entrepreneurs probably, but just an unregulated nervous system. And I basically kind of filled people in on what that was, because it wasn't until just a couple months ago that I even knew what that was.
Right.
And
then I had the full download one evening.
Yes, you did. And so I told them yesterday how I used to have a lot of shocks, which was my I didn't
shocking.
Actually flinch. But remember how like you'd like jerk over in traffic or something? I'd be like, "Oh gosh, you just shocked me." Remember? And I know you were thinking, what were you thinking?
I was thinking you were crazy.
I knew you were thinking I was crazy. Yeah, I knew it.
Because my driving is amazing.
Your driving lacks so much, baby. But you've got so many other.
Not true. I am just training to be a NASCAR or Formula One driver.
And what does your wife always say? Kill yourself on your own time.
Yeah.
Not with me in the car. Okay.
I don't feel safe.
I don't feel safe. Okay, that's what we're talking about today.
Oh, okay.
I'm feeling safe. We're talking about safety. Okay. All right. So this is part two, but you got to go listen to part one for this to make sense. Okay. So today we're going to talk about
Which one feel like it should be French, like part deux. Like
part deux?
Doesn't that sound like?
Remember when I had the painting company, the Magic Brush, and I wanted to name it Chateau de Faux?
Yeah.
Which is French for the House of Fake.
Can we tell what I used to call it? Probably not, huh? Okay.
Go ahead. No. It was the Magic Brush. Go ahead.
It's called the Magic Bush.
Yeah. He called it the Magic Bush because one time we had t-shirts made.
One time.
Okay, note to self. So the font wasn't good and on the t-shirts. And so remember, you couldn't really see the R. And so we were in a job site one time and people are like, "The Magic Bush, do you guys do landscaping?" And I'm like, I can't get the words.
Then they called you about one time about the Magic Bus. And they don't know if you did bachelor parties.
And I remember all the phone calls I used to get about hairbrushes. Yeah. With the Magic Brush. Okay. We digress. All right.
That's when people had telephones at home.
Okay. That was, we did for the majority of our marriage. All right. So we're talking about co-regulation today.
Oh.
And I know that this is going to be a new term for some of you. And so here's like how I even learned what co-regulation was, and then how I shared with Jason. So I would be like sitting there, flipping through Instagram. And this one time at band camp, I saw this lady who, she like crawled up into her husband's lap, and she says something about how like he just totally makes her calm and makes everything right in the world. It's like he calms the noise, etc. And I was like, we already do that. And then when I like read the whole thing, because I was thinking, oh, cool, we do that too. And then I read her description and she's talking about co-regulation. I'm like, wait, this is an actual thing. And I remember like sending the link to my friends, Adrian Richardson and Carrie Rabina. There's like my best business buddies. We talk every day. And then
took a lot.
We have a lot of words.
Yeah.
We have a whole lot of words.
Yeah.
And so one of them was familiar with the term. I don't know if the other one was, but essentially here's what co-regulation is and what I want to talk about today. It's basically me borrowing Jason's nervous system or Jason borrowing mine, which I don't know has happened ever. And so, okay, because this is, and again, not a doctor. Okay. But so basically co-regulation is like how our two nervous systems or anybody's two nervous systems like interact with one another. Okay. And so it's usually in romantic relationships. It could be other relationships, but usually it's romantic. Now,
yes.
if we've got people here who are like, okay, I'm not married, so I'm tapping out of this conversation, like stick around. If you don't have anybody that you can help to co-regulate your nervous system, I still think there will be some benefit to listening. Okay. So that's one thing. Number two, I know that some of you are going to say, okay, but my spouse would never, or I don't even know how to bring up this conversation. And I'll get to that kind of at the end. And so, yeah, so there's that. I just wanted to address like the romantic part right at the beginning for people that aren't like in a relationship or not married. All right. Okay. So there's that. Okay. So I need to be able to regulate my nervous system, which means to make sure that my insides are calm and not being outside.
We call it decompressing.
Decompressing.
Well, I need just some downtime to decompress.
I know that I am responsible for taking care and regulating my own nervous system, as are you.
Right.
But sometimes I get on a little bit of a spiral, don't I?
Sometimes the mind is just going like 400 miles an hour. Words are coming out at about 450 miles an hour. And then, but then like we'll be sitting down for dinner, but I can see in her face, it's not shutting down. Like it's still,
and I'm just not even there.
Yeah. And sometimes, yes, you're not even there.
And I hate to like say that out loud.
But it is true.
But I do think it's important that we talk about the quiet things that nobody really wants to talk about, because I guarantee you there are so many other entrepreneurs out there who are going to listen to this. They're going to know exactly what we're talking about. And so when we are doing like co-regulating, basically your nervous system is telling my nervous system, like, Jen, you're safe. You are totally secure. You can like totally be at peace. Like go ahead and come on down. And I was thinking about the other day, like, it's almost like, you know how when we're on an airplane, I'm looking for your eyeballs.
Yeah.
And just because they're so green and they love.
Take these off for you.
Love. So you know how when we fly, remember how I used to be such a nervous flyer?
Yeah.
And have you ever heard the analogy, like, if there's turbulence and stuff, I was telling Noah this last time him and I went to Phoenix, that pay attention to like the flight attendants, because I mean, they're trained to keep a poker face, but like, if they're not worried, we don't need to be worried. You know what I mean? And so if you can look at like the flight attendant and she looks calm, cool, and collected, like you can kind of be like, okay, I can be calm, cool, and collected.
They're still doing drink service and snacks, then you're good.
Then we're good to go. Right. And so like, that's what happens when like I'm trying to co-regulate, is like your nervous system is telling me like, we're good to go. It's like your poker face.
Yeah.
And so
relax.
Essentially, like Jason is the one that provides me with this huge sense of safety and security. And after being married to me for almost 27 years, like safety is like
number 1 and 2 and 3 on
altogether
on the list. Yes.
And that is childhood.
Yep.
That is past experience. I actually told them yesterday that I was in a relationship long before you, but I know, big eyes.
Just so you know, I was never in a relationship before. I never dated anybody ever.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, baby.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're calling your bluff right now.
Could be a stretch.
But so that was a very traumatic experience of the house being emptied out and me having to start over with a waterbed and a fish tank, and just being left alone. And so like I have a real need to feel safe, and so you totally do that for me. So there's these people on Instagram. I know you're not on Instagram, except your golf brand, Fairway Finest, is on Instagram.
Yes, it's on Instagram.
But it's called Master Your Marriage, or Mastery Your Marriage. But they have a saying that is, safety is a love language, which your love language is words of affirmation and physical touch. Mine is words of affirmation. But they say that safety is actually a love language.
I can see that. Because I feel like sometimes if you don't feel safe, then you don't decompress at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's right. 100% spiral zone.
Yeah. And
can we go back just a second? Okay. So my wife was in a relationship before that, and I don't think I've said it to you, but I just always want to thank him for being the guy that he was, and
breaking your wife's heart.
He broke your wife's heart, but my goodness, what I received on the side of that was 10,000 times. I mean, hey, you're lost. Sorry.
It'd be funny if you listen to this.
Well, yeah. I just said it publicly. So if you know him, you can give him a high five when you walk by and say, hey, thanks for doing that.
You're hilarious to me. Yeah, I was a little shocked that I announced that.
But anyway, we all have a past. We all have a past.
So, okay, so then in some of my research about co-regulation, like one of the things that I find really interesting is that co-regulation actually starts in the womb. That it's like long before we're born and have the ability to, be, because you can't like if we look at Ari, she's not able to really regulate a whole lot of her emotions. Sometimes there's things that we have to do to help her regulate her emotions when we call her behavior off the rails.
Yeah.
And so we got to try to bring her back in. So that's like the co-regulation, but that happens actually inside of the womb. And like, so the mother's voice, for instance, is very like soothing to an unborn child, right? But also then, like, if the mom is under a ton of stress while she's pregnant, like that kind of gets passed on to the baby also.
Yep.
And so what I think is interesting is that if my entire life I felt this incredible need for safety, like, did it start in childhood or did it start in utero? Because my mom was a single mother. She was young. She was alone. You know, there will be a time when I feel more at liberty to share that story, but I can only imagine like how stressful that had to be.
For sure.
And so, you know, did I just
inherit
a lot of that stress?
Or just,
And then I look at like our own kids. We have 4 kids. I'm not even to our actual notes yet. This is just the intro.
Oh,
but if I look at our own kids, like Noah Allwood, our oldest, he probably is a little more like me in terms of his nervous system than the other kids. The other kids are pretty cool. Well,
but it was, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because we had, you know, we had gotten pregnant and there were some complications and it didn't come to fruition. And so
we miscarried.
And then with him, I think it was super stressful for everybody because it was the first time you were parents. And so you don't really know, like, and you had some
problems.
with diabetes, gestational diabetic and all this other stuff, bed rest. And just, it was a lot of,
there's a lot of stress. And I was still running the painting company. And so sometimes I wonder, like, did I pass some of that like nervousness onto him? So send this to your friends who are pregnant. Okay. So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say about that. Okay. So you have your nervous system. I have my nervous system, but when we're together, it's like almost co-regulation means we kind of like form a new one. And so it's like my nervous system and yours are like constantly sending like messages to each other. Here's what I think is fascinating. Like from a science perspective.
We're getting scientific.
Get some research on science says I did because, well, I feel, you know, like there's just stewarding the platform well and not wanting to be an idiot and not wanting to misguide people. Also telling them yesterday, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but if I know more than you, like, hopefully you can learn something. But studies show that when there's co-regulation happening, and I'm going to give you all the ways we co-regulate in just a second, that it lowers blood pressure. Okay. It lowers your heart rate. Yep. I told them yesterday too, I'm on blood pressure medication. I had a little bit of a vulnerability hangover, but then, he knows that when I'm twisting my hair, I'm usually nervous. You're good. It lowers like hormones. So it lowers, your body excreting cortisol, which is like the stress hormone. And actually there's a study that says when you do like co-regulation, you can actually extend the lifespan of each other. So see, all of our cuddling, baby, we're going to live forever. So, but then on the flip side of that, if you are not in a really healthy relationship, it can actually give you like a great sense of danger. And so, I think that's super interesting. Okay. So yes, baby. Am I doing that again? Okay. I'm stopping. This is me stopping. So, okay. So in my research, is it research or research?
I think it's research.
Okay. They were saying that like, okay, co-regulation is something, it's not like a concept, it's like something that you actually do. So they were giving some ways people co-regulate. These are the ones we don't do. Okay. Synchronized breathing.
We don't.
No, we don't.
Nope.
We do no synchronized breathing. None at all.
Nope. First of all, I have to take a deep breath to get all the words out that she says in one day. I feel like I do pretty good with cardio, but you would got to way outdo cardio for me because let's just so many words, just the words.
It's all before noon. Yeah, because afternoon it goes quickly down.
Valid.
Okay, the second one that they talked about on the article I found was like doing teamworky type of tasks, like planning an event, and I'm like, oh Lord, we are no good at this. No. Like we are good at a lot of things.
When we had the painting company, like people had come to us and and asked, would you guys ever do a show? Like anything, like, do you remember that we had those conversations?
I distinctly remember. I always tell them we're not precious enough.
I don't think that HGTV is ready quite for, I am a thrower, a loser controller, a yeller, a holler screamer, cursing, more throwing, kicking. Smashing. The other day the printer almost met a demise when the paper got jammed in there for the third time in a row. It was and I even told her, I told Jen, I was like, I'm going to Okay.
kill the printer. And
So,
so, yes.
we don't do that.
We don't do any.
Synchronized swimming. Nope, we don't do that.
No.
Tasking.
Okay. So quiet togetherness. And I thought, okay, this is what we do every night.
Yeah, we do that.
So Jason likes to watch TV. Like right now you're watching, so you're either watching the news or right now you're watching basketball.
NBA finals are on.
Right.
Let's go.
Right.
Well, and it'll be like 6 months for the finals because I think there's 27 teams.
Right.
And then so now it's down to the final four. So it's getting better.
Every night we are sitting together on the sofa at the end of our bed.
Yes.
I'm either reading or writing podcast notes or checking social media. You are either watching basketball and or taking your orders for Fairway Finest, sending emails for that.
Correct.
Whatever. And so, but they call it quiet togetherness. And I'm like, ooh. So it's merely your presence in the room. And so a lot of times I will just say to you, I just want you to sit by me.
Right.
And what's interesting is,
because we have different options where we can sit in the bedroom. Like we can sit in the bed, sit on the
chair,
sofa. There's a chair in there. So there's
sofa.
So there's other options of where we sit. I have made a conscious effort though, and it's because I love you, but also I know it helps you slow down a little bit. Is if I just sit on my little cushion and give her,
he has this much of the sofa, and I lay down.
If I give her the cushion and then she can put her feet up and just. Even if they're just touching my leg or my arm or whatever else, but it is definitely intentional.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
And so this is the one that we do. It's the fourth.
Yes, we do.
It's the fourth.
We do.
Like way people can co-regulate, and it's through like physical touch. It's through physical connection. So it's holding hands. It's gentle touches. And like the research shows that when that is happening, so when I'm on the sofa and I literally just have like a foot up against your leg or something, I don't know why. That does good things to my nervous system, but this is the research that it says. It says that when we are touching there's the release of the love hormone, which is called oxytocin. Remember last night I was like, not Oxycontin, oxytocin.
Oxycontin's not good.
Yeah.
Not good. I've been on painkillers. It ain't good.
So that's the love hormone. So literally just by my body touching yours, there's something that happens with like the trust level on a physiological level. There's something that happens like on a chemical level, a physical level. Love hormones are excreted and my blood pressure will go. And so,
but usually in that whole thing that's happening, right? And it doesn't happen boom immediately, right?
Right. It takes a few minutes.
It takes a little bit to get there, right? But usually I can audibly hear what from you when that happens.
You can usually hear an exhale. And you used to say, why the big exhale? And I didn't even realize that I would be doing it.
And I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now you don't even mention it, but I know you still hear it.
Yeah, I still hear it.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things that like, okay, I know now she's like, it's coming down. Like she feels like it's in a place where it's like
manageable.
Mm-hmm. She's getting there.
Right.
Not that you're there yet, but we're
right.
on our way to.
Yes.
And
one of the things that I mentioned yesterday that I want to mention again and just have you speak to is like, I don't feel like I'm broken.
No.
I don't feel like I'm a basket case. I don't feel like I don't feel like there's something like majorly wrong with me. I don't feel like I need to go to the doctor.
No.
What I feel like is I've got to make my insides match my outside. So even though I was telling them yesterday, like I can be sitting down resting, but like I would tell you, I'm just really revved up on the inside. And I can't figure out sometimes on how to get that to come down.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're talking about. Okay.
So you're not broken. You're not broken. You're not a basket case. There are some instances and situations where I think you are, but that's just, that's my own personal.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm in therapy for that. Just kidding.
Talk to a lot of people. But it is just I don't know. It's just a regulator.
Let me ask you this. Okay. When did you notice that this started getting worse? Because I feel like 27 years ago, this really wasn't a thing.
No, no.
And so I'd love to know, when did you see me? Because there's going to be women that are listening. They are business owners.
Yeah.
This is their first introduction to conversations about nervous systems, stress levels of entrepreneurs, and then how to try to help bring their stress level down. But when did you kind of start to notice it? Because I'll tell you kind of what I think.
The actual date it started, I don't know. Even what year it was, I don't know. I know that where we've been.
Was it this house?
Yeah, for sure.
Was I this internally stressful at the old house, which would have been 6 years ago at least?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't feel like it.
It's like the last 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years.
And also I do attribute a lot of it to, our own, but not only business, but also our own personal things that have gone on in our
in the
life.
last 6 years.
We adopted a child. COVID hit. I was in a traumatic bike accident.
My best friend had cancer. My mom moved away.
Your best friend had cancer. Your
Business
mom moved away.
exploded.
Business exploded.
Bought 3 houses.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some
Yeah.
stuff that's gone on in our own personal life as well as business life that have attributed to stress level on everybody's part.
Right.
And I don't know if the kids necessarily feel it, but I think we've done a good job of trying to manage it.
Yeah, I don't know that the kids know that mom's, rubbed up on the inside. I also don't think if the people that are listening to the podcast, if they were to meet me, they would have no idea.
No.
Because I
if you
act
actually meet her,
100%
if you actually
fine.
be out of the house long enough to meet.
Because I'm such an introvert. And so
which is so funny.
Right. So I kind of wanted to give you that just to make sure that you know that like I'm not walking around like stressed out crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
I also wanted to make sure that I explained my husband just a little bit before I tell you about the physical stuff, the stuff that's getting a little more PG-ish. Okay. Because remember how you said just a little bit ago, like, you make me look so good on the internet.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it's funny to me when people are like, oh my gosh, your husband's so patient.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why.
You have no idea.
Okay. So
there's
my husband
is a lot of things.
Sexiest man I know.
Patience.
I am obsessed with him. But he can be a hot stinking mess. And he is very like this with his emotions.
Yeah.
You are super passionate
about a lot of stuff.
You are super loud.
I can be been known.
Yes, you are an absolute extrovert to my introvert. You are aggressive.
Some can be.
But you know what? Like, I love the idea of, because you're an alpha male, totally. And like, I couldn't be with somebody that was not an alpha male. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
Because
I've said this.
I feel like we need more manly men. Manly men.
Yeah.
And I think there's something incredible when a man has like the ability to, have power under control.
Yeah.
And aggressiveness under control and passion like under control. So you're
it doesn't always stay under control. Sometimes the passion goes a little sideways.
Well, like pre me, like 29 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we've come a long way.
Yeah, we have.
Okay, so here's why I wanted to say that. So because I don't want you to think that when I start telling you about some of the things that Jason and I do to co-regulate to help my nervous system, I want you to realize like he's alpha male. He is a manly man. And so, which I absolutely love about him. You are a fierce protector of me and your children.
Oh.
And I think especially me,
and
you, and my daughter,
and your daughter,
and both Ari and Ava.
Yep.
And so there is great comfort in knowing like you would absolutely take someone out on my behalf.
I really would.
Like there's no doubt in my mind that that's the type of fierce protection you have about me and your daughters in particular. And so that's like, I've compared you before to Rip on Yellowstone, like the Christian version of Rip. However, you also like that sort of like fierce protectiveness, concern for our safety, all of those things also offers me like intense. I feel safe just knowing that about you, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And even though you are on the outside, like aggressive and this, like your insides are cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
And so that's why.
But I don't hold anything in a lot though, too.
Right.
I will
We are absolutely.
I will let her fly.
Talking about that. Yes.
Yeah.
So when your nervous system, which is cool as a cucumber, and my nervous system, which is very deregulated, get together, you're like a whoopee for me. You're like my pacifier. You're like the thing that just kind of, yeah, I know. But you're able to like silence the noise with that and like really reduce my level of anxiety. I told somebody it's like you're a 6'2", like a security blanket.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Peace inducing, calming security blanket. Okay. So
I've been called,
What we
I've been
have,
called a lot of things. I don't think I've ever been called a whoopee.
you've never been called a whoopee?
No,
Oh,
I've
is
been
that
called,
a term of endearment?
I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking maybe, but I'm not
Maybe.
100% sure. If somebody else
Okay.
calls me whoopee, I might have to smack them.
Okay. I get a pass. So a couple of the things that we've had to figure out is I have had to get more honest with you about when I am feeling all revved up. And
Yes.
so like, what are the words? What do I even say to you usually? Like, I just can't calm down.
Yeah.
I
Well, if
feel,
we're in the car,
I'm like, I feel all
if
revved
we're in
up.
if we're in the car, a lot of times it's to grab the I call it the crud
The
bar.
4-letter word starting
Yeah.
with SHI.
Yeah. That bar, or there's a lot of this and whatever else, and there's a lot of exhaling and stuff. And so then I know I need to pump the brakes a little bit,
Mhm.
not be so aggressive.
Yep.
And then I have to reassure sometimes verbally that
Mhm.
you can relax. I got this under control.
Right.
Like I'm good.
And then I
Like,
actually have to see your driving
yeah,
get better. But
improve. But if we're sitting on the, like, what was the question? Go ahead, rewind it back.
the question was like, what do I say to you to let you know that
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not in a good spot? And
Yeah.
on the inside, again, on the outside, I can look fine.
On the inside, yeah. And a lot of times, mind you, I can see it in her face expressions or her eyes or her hands a lot, because you'll just be typing
Fidgety and
vigorously and just
Mhm.
doing something. So you have to take the visual cues also, but usually she just I can look at her and she's like, I just can't, I'm just revved. I'm just revved up. I can't relax.
So I've had to be a lot better at just being honest with you when that
Which is
or-
hot. Honest, open, and
yeah,
transparent.
honest, open, and transparent. It's a hot conversation.
It's a hot conversation.
Also, I've gotten better at just saying I need you.
Mhm.
And you usually know that when that a lot of times that means like I need you physically. So
Yeah, at that point in time, I'm starting to turn
Yeah.
on, lower the lights, and
no, you're not. We never
little-
lower the
little
lights.
Barry White on.
No.
Hello.
Okay, so get me distracted. So here are some things that you've been doing, and then we'll get to the physical part of the co-regulation. But
Okay.
you've been really in the last like year to 2 years in particular, really encouraging me to do things that distract myself from business in particular.
For sure.
And to get my mind off it. Like, so the number one thing that I've been doing for the last at least a year is reading more.
Yep.
And so like I was such a reader as a child, which some of you maybe remember reading as a child, to the point where like I can remember getting in trouble from my
Right.
parents because
Yeah.
get your head out of that freaking book. That was a quote. And so if you're watching on YouTube, you saw the quote. And so, you know, when you first have children, it's a really difficult season to read in.
For sure.
And so we had, you know, a season of I was pregnant 5 times in 6 years. Yes, 5 times in 6 years.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
had 2
yeah, yeah,
miscarriages.
that's right.
You know, and then when we got, all right, not a good time to read, when the business is split, not a good time to read. But in recent years, I've gone back to reading, not books on how to be a better Christian, not books on how to be a better wife, not
No.
books on how to be a better mother.
Not
But reading
self-help
just
books,
for the
no, nothing
sake
like that.
of like
Reading a
loving,
book.
just
Yeah.
reading stories that completely like take me away. And that has been super duper helpful. You've also encouraged me a lot to travel even without you.
Yep.
Regardless of me worrying about what, you know, the internet's going to think, because I really have a need to travel and to go, and you do not.
But the thing is, they're going to form their own opinions anyways.
I know.
All the interweb's going
I
to
know.
form their own opinion anyways, no matter what. No matter if we travel together, travel separate. If I go on a trip, you go on a trip,
Mhm.
whoever. I mean, whatever. My philosophy is you know how I am. I could care less. Right?
Well, I know, because
Yeah.
you're not on the internet.
But I am via you, so people know me via you.
Proxy.
But all that to say is that if it is like for the men in the audience, right? I guess it's the long play of foreplay, right? Because if it's good for her, then it's going to eventually be good for us. I did.
On
Yes.
my podcast.
I did, yes. But I'm just saying though that she needs that release. She needs that downtime. She needs that more than what I do.
Mhm.
So by all means, give it to
Go.
her. Let her have it. Like
Go.
if it's 2 hours of reading a book in the evening and I can just watch a basketball game, but she has to touch my leg. Okay. Who cares? I mean, I'm still watching the basketball game. She's still in the same room with me, but she's just reading a book. She could care less about basketball or, you know, what Boston's doing or the Pacers or whatever. I don't know. It's somewhat, I don't know how to finish the sentence, but I know this, that if it's good for her, then it's better for our marriage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was trying to look up what podcast number, because I literally did a podcast on like the benefits of traveling. And if you want that podcast number, we'll get it into the show notes. So
Which also lowers your blood pressure,
Mhm.
which also, you know,
it lowers my cortisol levels.
which
Like
also increases your lifespan. So
Yeah.
we could live to be like 400 years old.
I know. I was telling somebody the other day that whenever I go to Florida, whether it's with you or without you,
Yeah.
either way, I can eat whatever I want in Florida and come back and not gain a pound because my cortisol levels are so low.
Yeah.
And that's also from being just close to the water. And so I do have a whole podcast on why we get our best ideas in the shower and why you should be close to water if you need inspiration. So go listen to that too. I'll put that in the show notes.
See, I talked to a buddy of mine. We went on a golf trip, and he said he came back and he weighed 5 pounds more.
Well, because you're in the desert, you're not on the beach.
No.
Oh, you're talking when he went to
Yeah,
Florida?
no, when we went to Arizona.
Okay.
Because we just ate so much food.
I'm not talking about Arizona.
I know I'm talking about going on vacation then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because that's what trips your trigger. And yeah,
Mm.
so mine is in Florida. All right. So other things that you do is physically you stay really close to me when we're
Yes.
out in public, because the larger that my platform has grown, the more that people do tend to know us when we're out and about. This morning, i.e. we went and got an acai bowl in Liberty. The lady that was working there follows our Instagram. So there's that. And I love it when you guys say hello. I love it when we're at the airport and you come up to me and want to take a selfie. Like, I love that. I also just love that I know he's right here. There's only been one, for instance, and it was in Nashville where anything got weird and got a little panicky and so that kind of, left a little weird taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
So physically you stay close to me.
But I wasn't in
when we're
Nashville with
out.
you.
No, you weren't with
and
me.
but also your team also knows now that if I'm not traveling with you, then there has to be has to be somebody close to you also.
Just because it makes me feel safer, and
Yep.
then I'm more at ease when I feel safe.
Yep.
And so like when we go to church, for instance, you also sit, you have me sit on the inside, you
For
sit
sure.
on the outside. You're my coverage.
Yeah.
You're essentially my coverage, not because I need covered from anything, but just because I'm so introverted, you're very extroverted, and just it makes me feel safe to know that somebody will talk to you and then they'll talk to me or
Yeah.
whatever. So okay, let's talk about the lovey-dovey stuff, okay? About the co-regulation.
Hang on, can we go back just a second though? There, and I
Yes,
just
we
want to say that your podcast has listened to a lot of women, some men, I'm sure, but a lot of
There's a
women out
couple
there.
guys.
But I will say this is though that me sitting on the outside of that protection, right, is kind of like when I was trained as a young man, though, that like if we're walking on the sidewalk, that I'd be closest to oncoming traffic,
Mhm.
right? It's the same scenario. If we're riding bikes outside,
You
I
should do
make
that,
sure
right?
I make sure that Jen is on the inside and
Mhm.
I'm on the outside, and I'm 90% following her unless I can't hold on anymore and I have to go up a hill and I pass her. But I'm also making sure in my rearview mirror that she is okay. So it's just
because you were such a chivalrous guy. And sorry,
But-
folks, he's taken.
but I'm just saying that though to say like it is like if safety is an issue that you have, like
Mhm.
when you look at your spouse or your future spouse or your ex-spouse, and if they did those things, kudos to them, because that's the way it should be.
Yeah, because there's many different ways that a woman wants to feel safe.
Right.
Physically, mentally,
Yeah.
emotionally, like all of those are areas
Yeah.
where you provide safety. And so this
So
is
sorry,
this is the part of the podcast that I was like, okay, what are we doing even more than all of that to co-regulate, to lower my blood pressure? Are you cracking your neck? Okay.
I'm getting loose.
So no. So your love language
I'm stretching.
is words of affirmation and then physical touch anyway. So this is all great for you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The co-regulating works out great.
I'm not mad about this at all.
But I would say that we are a very touchy, even before my nervous system got a little bit out of whack and I got a little stressed about work stuff,
Yeah.
even before that, we have always been a touchy couple.
Correct.
True or false?
True. 100%
I mean,
true.
if I'm looking at like say us compared to other couple friends.
Yeah. And it's just because we're
not a gross level.
No.
But
Well, I mean,
like I've touched you while we're sitting here. We're at the bus stop in the morning, we're holding hands.
yeah, we usually walk, we hold hands, even though it's weird. And sometimes we'll start off holding hands. We may separate, but we'll usually come back by the time that walks over, we're holding hands. It's just because we're walking the dogs and, whatever the case is. But do you go way back? Okay. Our first introduction to each other.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I was managing a restaurant, and my beautiful bride here was the host with most. I had moved from one store to a new store.
You were my boss.
I was the boss.
Mhm.
But at that time, I was front of house, back of house, blah, 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 all that good stuff in the restaurant world, right? I was helping out the hostess that evening on a Friday night. And I walked up and I had
well, first you saw me.
Well, first I saw you, of course.
Okay, well, that's the best. That's the part of the story that I like for you to tell.
Well, okay, but
You
okay.
like the other part. Go ahead.
What part do you like?
Well,
tell them the part you like.
You were with Kelly and you saw me across the room.
And what'd I say?
Well, tell them. I already know what you said.
I said I'm going to marry that girl.
Before we even had a conversation.
Didn't even have a conversation. Saw her, knew it.
Okay.
Boom.
Then we had the conversation.
Then we had a conversation. So I'm helping out hosting. We're on a wait, blah, 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 all this other good stuff. She is taking names down. I'm seating people, but I just slipped my arm around my beautiful wife, and
like this.
She kind of gave a little nestle into my shoulder there a little bit.
And I was like, that's it. Right there. That's the feeling. And I had been at that point single for well over 3 years by choice. I was not dating. I was very like, I can do it all on my own. But you put your arm around me and I was like, I kind of got on in just like you said. And I was like, oh man, okay. Yeah. This is
anyways.
So we've always been physical.
So we've always been physical. Now, with that being said, there are some physical touches that aren't unwanted and can be awkward, but just holding of hands or just your arm around your wife or just a touch of the leg or just when she's fidgeting. If she's fidgeting, then I know if I grab her hand, she's going to look at me and be like, okay, I can realize it now.
Yeah. I mean, and that's much nicer than somebody just saying, stop fidgeting. You know what I mean?
Hey, stop pulling your hair, stop, itching your nose or stop, whatever it is that you're, whatever it is. Yeah.
We've got to get through this because our camera's dimming up there. All right. So when I was pregnant with Ava, we figured out something that we are using now, even as much, if not then, but I was so pregnant and so done with being pregnant, 36 years old. But a lot of times I would put my head in your lap when we went to bed at night. Like you're sitting up in TV, maybe watching TV or whatever. And I would put my head in your lap and you would literally like, put me to sleep by just kind of like playing with my hair, caressing my head. Yeah. That is a form of co-regulation that we still do today. So there's a lot of times we'll get in bed and I'll be like, can I just put my head in your lap? And you're like, absolutely. So, and that is just, it's so comforting. Yep. And then when you think about it, though, like think of, you do those sorts of things like with your baby, with your child,
for sure. Yeah.
Makes people feel really safe. We have been way more intentional about hugging and sometimes, well, we have figured out, like, I didn't know that this is all research backed, but there's times when we just need skin to skin hugs. Yeah. And literally it's like in the kitchen, nobody's home because we're working, by ourselves during the day. And I just need skin to skin because there's something different that happens when it's skin to skin. It's like, which is why when you have a newborn, they suggest you do, I think it's called kangaroo care.
Yeah. Well, they put that baby on your chest, right? When they're born. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, so that is a form of co-regulating. The studies all show that when you're skin to skin, your blood pressure for both of you is going down. Cortisol levels are going down. The love hormones are being released. And whether that, leads to anything else or not is beside the point. And, and 9 times out of 10, it's not. It's just in the moment, bringing things back to where your inside is calm enough that you are able to like relax both on the inside and outside. For sure. And so I was telling Jason last night that like, even just sleeping together naked, if you Google that, be careful what browser you use now, you're going to get all the Facebook ads.
I'm going to page 3.
Never page 3. Okay. But even just sleeping together like naked at night, if you're people that touch, what's interesting is in our marriage, like I don't remember the early days, but I know that when we started having babies, we started like, I needed a pillow on both sides of me, like in between my legs. So somewhere in, I'm going to guess 20 some years ago with Noah Allwood, I had a pillow on both sides of me, which meant there was a pillow in between you and I. Right. Well, in recent years, we're like, we got to get rid of the pillow because I just need to like feel him in the middle of the nighttime. Like we weren't big cuddlers and we are really veering more in that direction.
And we're not huge cuddlers per se, but I do think, cause I sleep on this much of the bed
and she's on 6 inches
and she has this thing that she likes to chillo in the summertime. And so it's on this side of the bed, but at the same time though, I think lately we have fallen asleep where we're at least touching each other. I don't even touch in the middle of the night, but then a lot of times in the middle of the night, we will curl up to each other. We will physically touch each other in the middle of the night.
Which we never used to do.
Mm-hmm. And,
not because we weren't in love, but just because it was like, you sleep over there and I'll sleep over here.
Yeah. But then you had babies. Mm-hmm. I had vasectomy. which is the pillow between your legs, right? I'm
Yeah.
just throwing it out there,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
it's more comfortable. And then, it had an accident and it was
then
uncomfortable.
It was hard to touch you in the
It
middle of
was
the
hard
night
to touch me all night because there was,
inevitably. I slept on the hip that you got injured on.
yeah,
We tried to switch sides of the bed, did not work.
that doesn't work. Don't
And
ever try to do that.
yeah.
That doesn't work.
And so, but back to like the skin to skin in the nighttime. For real though, like all jokes aside, if you just Google like the emotional benefits of sleeping naked with your spouse, it really does like reduce your stress levels, your cortisol levels, your anxiety levels. It increases all the right things and just helps you to feel more connected to your partner. Like all the research shows that. And then the last thing that
I just want to say,
I know, I'm like,
I
are
mean,
we actually having this
like,
podcast?
you might want to cover your ears on this part
What?
because
What
I'm just going to say,
whispers?
no, I'm not going to whisper.
Yes,
No,
I'm
I'm not a
scared.
whisperer.
I know
I've told
you're
you
not.
that my
Okay.
voice not a whisper.
Mm.
I will say this though, is that if you choose to sleep naked with your partner,
Oh,
spouse,
gosh, I'm holding my breath.
oh yeah, you should.
Is my mother gonna listen to this episode?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I will say this is that it's one less barrier to overcome
Oh, wow.
if
Yeah.
anything would pop up.
I'm just sitting here thinking your son edits this podcast.
Hey, Easton, you're gonna be married someday.
Hey, in fact, Easton's now engaged, so
Hey.
sooner rather than later. Okay,
Salute.
so we're all adults here. All right, last thing though that we have done to co-regulate, which is they're gonna think it's the weirdest, but also like it's a real thing. Like there are times when I literally am I just crawl up and almost into your lap.
Yes.
Like you can be on the sofa and it's almost like I'm in the fetal position.
Yeah.
And what's funny is there are like some videos about people co-regulating in that way on Instagram. I was joking with my team this morning. I'm like, should Jason and I do an Instagram reel where we show skin to skin? Like, no. Should we do a reel where it's like me crawling up into your lap? I mean, how much awkwarder could that get? But
you don't want to see all this unclothed. There's no doubt.
Surprise, baby.
Yeah.
No, anyway. This is all the things that are helping me to come down on the inside because the real truth about entrepreneurship is it's filled with endless possibilities for stress and the feeling of you can never get done. And even if you have your videos, here's what I feel like. Okay, I've got 4 podcast episodes I have to record today, emails to go through, that sort of thing. And then I'll think to myself, okay, now I have to go and answer social media DMs. Oh, by the way, I still have to put something on social media. And then I have social media for Bougie on the beach and Bougie on the desert. And so it's like you never get to a point where you think, okay, my work day is done. There's no such thing.
5 o'clock, I'm punching out.
There's no such thing. And then there's always the thinking about the next thing and what are we going to do next? And in my 40s, I think I was able to manage that relatively well.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are in your 30s and 40s and you are running a business, I'm going to tell you something. And it's not, and let me not speak it over you, but there is a time when your body starts going, you know what, we can't really perform at that level anymore. Or you know what, you've abused your body for the last 15, 20 years. And then now things start to kind of catch up with you in the form of blood pressure, in the form of a deregulated nervous system, in the form of adrenal fatigue, in the form of, needing blood pressure medication.
Yeah, I was going to say there's other things that aren't even like blood pressure, stuff like that. But there are actually physical attributes that just kind of have gone like crazy, like your TMJ, ear ringing. We've had issues with,
and they're
hair loss.
Like
we've had
little tiny, but
if you put them all together,
related to stress.
Yeah, but then it's one little thing. Oh, I have this, whatever. Then I have this, and then once you put them all together, though, it adds up to be a lot.
Yeah, because it's like the layering of the things, which also
like a cake,
magnifies,
right? Just all the layers, right? So it's just
But so when I was doing my research on co-regulation, it was talking about literally like when you co-regulate in whatever those ways we were talking about, your body's able to fight off more viruses, inflammation. Research shows you're happier, you're healthier. Cuddling just in general makes you like less anxious. And so, that skin to skin contact really affects your adrenal glands and your cortisol production. And so it's not just touching for the sake of touching or for it to be sexual. There's literally something physiologically in our bodies that actually.
And even if you can't get a skin to skin hug, even sometimes just a hug.
They can try that though. I mean, sometimes I'm like, You know,
I
I just
know.
need to be skin to skin for
Yeah.
a second. We're in the kitchen, the kids are all gone, because we both work at home during the day, and I pull my shirt up, you pull your shirt up, and there's,
Yeah.
the exhale is so real for me.
It's audible.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I want to end with this meme graphic, whatever, that I've been seeing on social media a couple times. Because, you know, once you like look at some content on social media, then you just get fed more of that content. So I get a lot of things about having a regulated nervous system. But I've been seeing people say, like, the true measure of success is a calm nervous system, or the true measure of success is a regulated nervous system. Because I know a lot of people who are winning in business and would appear to be winning at life, but on the inside, they are an absolute disaster. And so that's why I wanted to do this podcast episode, because I think we are being very intentional about bringing Jen's stress level down. And it's not like you don't have any stress. You just manage your stress
Differently.
better than I do.
I wouldn't say better. I would just say different.
I would say better.
I would say different.
I would say you're kicking ass at it.
Oh.
But and what's
There's
weird is it's kind of embarrassing, because I was telling them yesterday how, like, I don't cry on the situations where I should cry. I'm not an emotional person, am I?
I'll cry. I'll be emotional.
I know. I told them. You don't care.
I'm not afraid.
But you'll be
not-
like, what is that inside?
Yeah.
And
I'm
so,
not afraid. Come at me, bro.
but I mean, but also that kind of aligns with your personality, which is just passionate in all ways. You're not just
Yeah.
passionate in terms of anger, you're passionate in terms of tears and joy. And so where I have just conditioned myself to be like this, and I was telling them how even when we argue, I learned at a very young age,
Oh,
when everybody else
Good
elevates,
night.
if you stay down here, you actually have the upper hand, and it irritates the heck out of you, doesn't it?
I'm gonna.
It's like, who stays the calmest wins. And so I learned
It's not even
that
fair. It's not even a fair
as
fight.
like an argument tactic. There have been very few times in our marriage. Can you even think, like, I can think of 2 times I've raised my voice at you in 27 years.
Well, the only time I can think you raised your voice at me lately in the 27 years
What have you done for me lately?
is just when I walked in the room and I wasn't trying to do it. And
Oh gosh. Yes, I did scream
and
at
I
you.
scared you. And I scared you.
Yep, this is recently. Mhm.
Yep. And it's not something I do intentionally, because knowing my wife,
And this goes back to an unregulated nervous system.
Right.
I'm jumpy.
she's jumpy. And so like it infuriates her to be jumped or scared or traumatized in just that split second of whatever
Somebody
else.
jumps out of a room. Or
She
something.
knows
Oh.
in her head, she knows, but in her feelings, I think you see, like, and I walk
I
in the
see
room.
red.
I walked in and you were actually walking out of the closet, I think, or the bathroom, whatever else. And I walked in the room and I had just turned to walk in we have one little step going down to
Are you talking about when you unintentionally scared
Yes.
me, or when you intentionally scared me?
unintentionally scared you, and you were like, "What are you like?" And you like,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
And I was like, I was just walking in the room. Well, it looked like you were trying to. When did I scare you last time, though? When did I do that? When I put the snake in the toilet in Arizona?
No.
Well, that was
That
hilarious.
wasn't scary. That wasn't scary. Oh goodness. Friends, I hope that this was a fun podcast for you to listen to. This is our marriage.
This is it. Hey,
And-
thanks for letting me know what we're talking about.
You're welcome. Well, it was funner. It was funner. It was more fun.
More
Was it
funner?
fun? Can I say funner?
I think.
It was funner just to kind of to get you off the cuff, and
Whoa.
so that you weren't prepped at all. But again, if you didn't listen to episode 1, you got to go listen to that. And the whole intention is so that you guys can manage your stress level, both in life and in business, better, in a better, healthier way. And if you're not managing it really well, and you know that your nervous system is really unregulated, you might talk to your doctor, you might talk to somebody that has personal experience with a therapist. I don't know. I just know that co-regulation is really helping me in this season, and thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I love you.
I love you too. It also just helps. Like, we have been married now for almost 27 years.
Mhm.
And we have come a long way.
Mhm.
But as long as you're talking to each other, like, we have done a pretty good job lately of you being like super, super honest with me and be like, okay, I need a hug. I need help. I need just this.
Well, because I think for so long I had to be an adult way before my time. And then I had adult responsibilities at a way early age,
Yeah.
buying my first home at 21.
Yeah.
And so always overly mature, always took care of myself. And so allowing you to really come in and take care of me in every way is very vulnerable. That could be a whole nother podcast episode. I know, I'm like, there's gonna be some of you women, because, I mean, you're an alpha male and I'm kind of more on an, would you say an alpha female? Is that even a thing?
I mean, yes,
I'm a pretty strong woman.
strong-willed, strong woman.
Mhm.
Yes, for sure.
And,
And we have low tolerance for.
I know, I don't know how to say that without sounding mean. Like, I just, yeah.
We can do a different podcast.
Yeah, we can do a different
Yeah.
podcast on that if you guys want us to.
And it might not be G-rated because I might say some stuff that is not.
This one wasn't G-rated either.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, friends, for being here. Oh, I was supposed to read a podcast review and ask you guys if you would go leave a podcast review. Is it a bad time to leave a review when we just did a podcast on stuff that was kind of PG plus?
I don't know. Let's go. Let's see what it does.
It's Meg0506 who said,
"What up, Meg?
Jen's podcast has definitely been one I needed in my life as an entrepreneur, wife, mama to bio and adopted babies.
Let's go.
You. And a Jesus lover. Jen hits home in so many areas of my life. Thank you for providing such a beautiful and relatable content. Meg, God bless you and your sweet, precious family and your precious business and all of the things. I just pray that God would bless you in every single thing that you set your hand to.
Bless you, Meg.
Yeah. So thank you. If ever you guys get a chance to leave us a review on the podcast, please do. It helps us, with getting, I don't know.
Uploads, downloads, I don't know.
Uploads, downloads, people saying yes to being guests, etc.
Sure. All that good stuff.
Much love to you all. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I love you.
I love you too. That was long.